armchair detectives. Today I'm bringing you the case of the bodies in the suitcase, which recently went viral on TikTok, and for a good reason. This case is like nothing else I've seen in my lifetime or want to see again, so stay tuned for my latest true crime video. So this all began on June the 19th on a Seattle beach when a group of teenagers were filming a TikTok video of themselves using an app called Randonautica. This app works alongside the law of attraction, so you make an intention for something you want and then the app gives you coordinates to follow. And lots of people post their results on TikTok and social media, and it's one of these things that you can read what you want from it, and people are encouraged to share the results online.
More_pink, who said she went randonauting and set the intention to anything to do with her best friend. Now for some context, her best friend committed suicide 2 years prior. She followed the coordinates to this random grassy area and saw a raven right above her. Almost poetically, it dropped one of its feathers, which was super freaky considering her best friend had always said that if she were ever to have a spirit animal, it would be a raven.
But this case was different. The teenagers were sent to the shoreline of a popular tourist resort called Pike's Place Market in Seattle. Indeed, it's a hugely popular tourist destination with more than 10 million yearly visitors. They were led to the rocky shore and they found a black suitcase at the water's edge. And then they began to goad each other to open it. I mean, they were quite shocked to find anything at all. They'd put an intention out to find something and they said, oh, maybe it's money. You don't know what's inside it. But none of them were brave enough to actually go and tug it open by the zip. So they used a stick to pry open the luggage, and when they pulled it back, they saw it contained tightly bound bags, black plastic bin liner type, and it was all wrapped up, sealed and packed in that suitcase. One of the boys said as soon as she opened it, the smell was overwhelming. They started getting nervous and scared, and one of the girls sensibly called the police. They didn't open the bags anymore. It was a couple of hours before the police turned up. And although the kid said it took 3 hours, according to the police it took about 1.5. But by then the bags were floating away. The sea was coming in and they were being dragged out to sea. And the police managed to get them back through the use of scuba divers. The Seattle Police Department confirmed that another suitcase was located in the water, and officers later identified the remains as 35-year-old Jessica Lewis and 27-year-old Austin Wenner. Jessica and Austin had been in a relationship for about 8 years, and cause of death for Jessica was determined as 7 gunshot wounds, and their deaths were ruled as homicides. Austin had 1 gunshot wound. The families were devastated and they started a fundraising page to help with the investigation because they didn't know who would have killed their kids. And the video was posted to TikTok the day after it happened, and the internet blew up with theories. Some armchair detectives questioned the app itself. Others said it was the teenagers were responsible, as they were the ones who found the bodies. Jessica and Austin were described as good-hearted people who'd been through an incredibly tough few years. Austin's nickname was Cash, or Cash Money, and he and Jessica had been together for about 8 years. They were said to be inseparable. They had a baby between them, and Jessica had 4 children altogether. She was described as a loving and caring person and worked as a carer, helping adults with disabilities in an assisted living accommodation. I mean, that sort of a job in itself just demonstrates just how kind-hearted Jessica must have been. Austin was described as a dog lover who loved the outdoors. He had a couple of small brushes with the law, but nothing major, certainly nothing that would explain what happened to them. So who murdered Jessica and Austin? Well, neighbours were stunned and shocked when the couple's 62-year-old landlord, Michael Dudley, was arrested for their murders. Some said they knew Dudley for years, and he recently started behaving strangely, and his garden had become shabby and overgrown. Dudley admitted to renting a room in his home to Jessica and Austin during COVID-19 lockdown and said they argued over back due rent. By the sounds of it, the dispute went on for some time. When the police searched his house, they found bullet holes in the wall and blood in the couple's room, which was called the Blue Room, which had recently been redecorated. When asked about the blood, Dudley told investigators that Jessica had somehow cut herself. A judge found probable cause for 2 counts of first-degree murder and set Dudley's bail at $5 million. The charging documents said that more than one person may have been involved in the crimes, or at least the disposal. That Dudley was angry with them for not paying rent and bringing what he called criminality to his house. The documents said that Dudley most likely had had help dismembering the victims after he killed them and separated their bodies into multiple bags and dumped them into the water. I mean, this would have taken a lot of effort, and that in itself made him a threat to the community. Dudley had a dark past. His own daughter filed a sexual assault restraining order against him in June 2018, saying that he sexually assaulted her between the ages of 10 to 18. She said she didn't feel safe in her home or going to work, and said that he frequently threatened people with his gun. But the court later rejected the request for a restraining order, stating that the allegations fell under domestic abuse. Gina, Jessica's aunt, was close with her niece. She told journalists that Jessica had said similar things about Dudley. She said that he put trackers on people's cars, and when he got into arguments with people, he would tell them to leave, but then lock them in the house. She said sometimes he would break their car so he couldn't leave. Dudley was alleged to be cruel to animals, and I won't go into details as it's pretty horrific, but he brutally killed his own dog while other people watched. Gina said Jessica and Austin had nowhere to go, and that's why they stayed with Dudley, who she called a freaking psycho. Dudley's ex, Marlis Gordon, spoke to the media, and she said she was in a relationship with Dudley on and off until 2016. Now, already you can see that he has a violent and dark past to him, and it's so sad that these young people found themselves in this situation that they had to share a home with him. I mean, you know what lockdown's been like. It's been hard for people, and to be in a house like that with someone all the time, not being able to go out, is bad enough, but to be with someone like him with a really short fuse and obviously completely different viewpoints, that is a recipe for trouble. So Dudley's ex said, "I still can't even comprehend how he would be capable of doing that," when asked about the murder. She said, "That is beyond me." Yet she also disclosed that he was violent during their relationship. She said that he hit her, grabbed her hair and threw her to the floor. Then he threw her onto the outside patio, all the while holding a gun in his hand and waving it around. She described Dudley as having an intense personality and that he was extremely intelligent and well connected. Well, he wasn't that intelligent, because the suitcases were said to be his. And one of the last calls from the couple's phone was to Dudley's at 7:01 on the evening of the 9th of June. Neighbours had called 911 on the 9th of June because they said they heard gunfire from inside the house and then yelling from a male saying, "Please don't do this, just let me leave." Police responded but got no answer because naturally Dudley didn't answer the door. This was a man who was known to own a gun, who had a very sharp temper, and I'd like to know more about why the officers just didn't force entry. A witness told detectives that she went to the house that evening. She saw an outline figure of a person under a pile of clothes with a bloody arm sticking out of it in the Blue Room. She told detectives that Dudley asked her to leave because he had to clean up this mess. I mean, odd behaviour or what? When she went back later, she asked him what happened, and he told her that his gun worked and his didn't. Dudley confirmed with detectives afterwards that Jessica and Austin stayed with him during lockdown. He said it was just the 3 of them. He charged them $1,500 a month in rent, but they were not able to pay it. He said that he did indeed own the 9mm handgun, which officers found in his car when he was arrested. When asked about the blood in the Blue Room, he said that Jessica had cut herself, but he couldn't explain the bullets or the bullet holes or why indeed the room had been recently decorated. The medical examiner said both Jessica and Austin had been beaten as well as shot. It's said that Jessica had grass in her mouth, which was odd because she was most likely shot in the house. But why was she shot 7 times when Austin was shot just once? I think he locked them in the house because he's done that before. And I think the neighbours heard Austin plead to be let out. But how could Dudley dispose of the young couple in such a cold and calculated way? And who helped? This is a man without a conscience who always saw himself in the right. With his history of abuse, threatening manner and animal cruelty, how the hell was this guy allowed to have a gun? He was charged with second-degree murder of Jessica and Austin in the King County Superior Court on September the 8th. This is a very recent case, so more will be revealed in time. I do hope we get justice for Jessica and Austin. I'm not playing the video as this has been so upsetting for the family. It took a long time for the video to be removed from TikTok. And it had 30 million views.
No, I don't want them to be just remembered as, plastic bags. That's not who they were. These were actual people, and I want everyone to know that. I wanted to thank those kids because there could have been a possibility that nobody found those suitcases. I would have thought by then they would know better to put it down, that these bodies that were found in these bags and these suitcases that smell awful, that they had faces now that they could see, and they were people. And I would just had thought they would have known too that they were people, and they would have taken it down out of respect for that.
If you would like to donate to the Just Giving page, I'll leave the link below. I feel so sad for Jessica's children and her family who are left behind. I mean, what an awful way to lose a family member. In one way, it was really good that the video on TikTok was shared because it did help the officers to progress the case quicker. And I know they've come in for criticism as to the length of time they took to respond, but to be honest, they weren't to know what was in that suitcase. You know, officers get calls from kids all the time, and more often than not, it turns out to be nothing. When I was in the police, just to explain how crazy it can be, you know, you're assigned your own call number, your call sign, and you go out in the morning when you're in uniform, this is, you go out in the morning, you have a list of sheets printed off of jobs to go to, and you go to them, but all the time the radio's in your ear and it's sending you to another job and another job and another job, and even when you're busy and you can't go to them, you can just hear those jobs stacking up. There just aren't enough police officers to deal with the amount of jobs and calls coming in most of the time. So they are put in order of priority, and obviously a life and death situation will gain priority over something which could be just kids mucking about. And also it comes down to resources, and I know Seattle police have had a really tough time at the moment, you know, getting resources, getting police and funding. And you know, that affects everyone, it affects just the whole community, and it's really, you know, it's really difficult. And certainly they've got a whole investigation to go through yet with regards this murders of these 2 innocent people. And I really do hope they get justice. And I know he's pleading not guilty at the moment, which seems crazy. So I will be keeping a very close eye on this. It's very recent, so there will be lots more updates to come. And I will be watching it very closely. So what do you think of this case? Do you think the video should have been shared on TikTok? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you've enjoyed this video or got value out of my video, please, please, please give me a like. And if you'd like to see more, do subscribe for updates. I will be posting more videos soon. I'm a bit late with this one because I did have a little holiday, so forgive me for that. But I am back on track and I'll be bringing you lots more interesting cases soon. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, it is hugely appreciated. And don't worry too much about these cases because they are very rare, so don't let them keep you awake at night. Until next time, bye bye.